Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sports Speaks. I'm your host, Jared Smith, and alongside me is another host,
Alexis Yoder. Hi, guys. Jared, how was your weekend?
My weekend was pretty eventful. State patties going on, so not too much to get into because of COVID and everything. But I stayed in my circle, and we had a great time.
Yeah, same here. I hung out with my friends on Friday. We played some like Cards Against Humanity games and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a fun time. But I really just didn't feel the need to go out in like big masses of people. I just wanted to stay safe, and I actually had work Saturday afternoon because gotta pay to be here somehow. So yeah, that was pretty much my weekend. And what's your week looking like coming up?
I'm actually don't know. I'm just going through the motions right now, just trying to stay safe, graduate, and move on with my life.
Yeah, well, I'm actually going home this weekend. Pray my parents don't watch this right now. I'm going home to surprise them because it's my dad's birthday next week, and
What?
I haven't seen them since I moved out, which has been pretty much over a month. So I'm excited to see them. I'm excited to see my brother, and most excited to see my dog. And I miss her so much since we got her over quarantine. So I'm very excited. I'm gonna try not to cry.
Oh, that's great. All right, go ahead with wins and
All
losses.
right, we're gonna get into some wins and losses from the Penn State sports world from last week. We're gonna start with wrestling, who defeated Maryland 44-0. Men's basketball beat Nebraska 86-83, and then lost to Purdue 73-52. Women's basketball was an interesting week for them. They upset number 15 Ohio State in the Bryce Jordan Center 69-67, which is the first time that Penn State has beat a ranked team since I believe 2016, and the first time they beat Ohio State since 2014. So a very big win for this young Lady Lions team, but then they lost to Rutgers on Sunday 60-55, but they'll have a chance to redeem themselves Tuesday night when they travel to New Jersey to take them on again.
Jersey.
Yes. Then men's soccer won against Rutgers 2-1, and then lost to Michigan State 1-0. Then women's soccer beat Northwestern 4-1 and Illinois 2-0. Men's volleyball took two wins over George Mason, one 3-1, and then the other 3-0. And then softball, hard first weekend for this team. They lost twice to Wisconsin, twice to Purdue, and twice to Northwestern. So tough weekend for them. But
Early season,
and they do have a new head coach who has had some success in the past. She came from Miami, Ohio, Clarissa Crowell. So she built up that program in the past, and obviously Lady Lions are or Nittany Lions looking for a rebuild there. So hopefully for them, she figures out how to right the ship in time for their next round of games. And then women's hockey took their first loss of 2021. They lost to Mercyhurst 3-2. And field hockey took their first loss in their first game of the season, 1-0. And then lastly, track and field had the Big Ten Indoor Track and Field Championships. They had 3 individual champions. Dominic Peretta won the men's 800-meter run. Victoria Van Reilly won the women's 800-meter run. And Sincere Ray won the 60-meter men's hurdles. So interesting week for Penn State sports. But coming up this week, we've got a lot of games. Big Ten Wrestling Championships, which we will get into next.
Big Ten Wrestling. That's what we like to hear.
Stay tuned for our interview with one of the Daily Collegian's wrestling beat reporters.
We'll be right back.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our interview portion of Sports Speak. This week, with the Big Ten Wrestling Championships coming up, we have one of the Daily Collegian's wrestling beat reporters, Ben Serfass. Ben, how are you?
I'm very good. Thank you guys for having me on the pod here. Happy to be with you guys.
Yeah, thanks for joining. So
we just want to start out with, obviously championships coming up, postseason, dual meet season has come to an end pretty much. Who have been some of the standout wrestlers thus far for Penn State?
Well, I think you got to look at Aaron Brooks at 184. He's definitely one of the best in the nation at his weight class. Roman Bravo Young is another great wrestler at 133. And I think then you also have to look at 174, Carter Starachi as a redshirt freshman who's really stepped up. I think in the past 2 weeks he's defeated top 3 ranked opponents. So he's working his way through the ranks as well. I think he's ranked number 4 overall via Intermat. That's the ranking system we use right now. And then again at 141, Nick Lee he's number 2 via Intermat as well. So Penn State's looking good heading into Big Tens right now.
Okay, Ben. So with the Penn State squad that they have currently right now, what or who are some of the marquee players that are freshmen, that are coming out of the hunt? I know some people would even consider the Penn State squad to be even a little bit experienced because of how many freshmen or just younger players they have on the team.
It's a really, really young team. And even some of the guys I just mentioned, like Aaron Brooks, he's only a sophomore. So they're just going to keep getting better and better. I mentioned Carter Starachi earlier. He's a redshirt freshman at 125. Robbie Howard's a true freshman. So he's also getting better. He's only wrestled, I believe, 3 matches so far. He had an injury to start the season. So he's just getting more and more experience. And he's getting better as the season goes on. So I think you might be able to see some big things from him in Big Tens. And then Greg Kirkvliet, he was another red shirt that made his season debut this past week against Maryland last Monday. So should get some matches in at the Big Tens. I think Kale hasn't really announced yet if it's going to be Kirkvliet at the heavyweight or Seth Nevels, who's wrestled the majority of the season. But again, Kirkvliet, another redshirt freshman. This team's really young and really talented.
So has the inexperience played any type of role, do you think, in your eyes when you're watching the matches?
I don't think so because, I mentioned a lot of these guys are red shirts. They use that season, their redshirt season, as an opportunity to learn. And this team is so experienced because the young guys, they get their feet wet right away. And they're very successful right away. And that's kind of the tradition that Cale Sanderson has built during his tenure here at Penn State.
So, Ben, what does Penn State need to do overall to win the team title? Obviously, the Big Ten is a very strong conference when it comes to wrestling, and Penn State had a couple big wins, but they've been close as well. So what do they need to do in order to ensure that they have a Big Ten team title?
Well, they're going to have to pull up some upsets, I think. Iowa is very, very talented. They're ranked number 1 in the nation right now for a reason. If you look at any of the rankings, they always have their wrestlers, if not at the top, very close to the top. So Penn State, first off, is going to have to win the weight classes that they should win. I mentioned 184. Aaron Brooks is the top in the conference. He's the best Big Ten wrestler at 184. Roman Bravo Young at 133. He might have a tough match with his opponent. I believe he is from Iowa as well. Austin DeSanto, he's number 5 right now. So that should be a matchup to watch. But outside of that, Penn State's going to have to pull up some upsets if they want to really challenge Iowa. And you might look at 174, Carter Starachi. There's a ton of ranked wrestlers from the Big Ten in that weight class. So again, it's going to be really tough, but Penn State certainly has a shot. They are more than talented enough to do it.
So going off those kind of big matches that people should be paying attention to, what are some more of those?
Heavyweight's going to be interesting because I mentioned that Greg Kirkvliet just made his season debut. He had an injury, so he's only wrestled 1 match. And again, I mentioned earlier, Sanderson hasn't announced yet who's going to be representing the Nittany Lions at heavyweight. Is it going to be Seth Nevels, who's done pretty well throughout the season, or Greg Kirkvliet? Kirkvliet was one of the top-ranked wrestlers out of his recruiting class. So I think if you get Kirkvliet in there, assuming that he is fully healthy or healthy enough to compete, I think it'll be interesting to see how far he can go because he is such a question mark at this point. So anytime he is on the mat, he is definitely worth watching.
Ben, I asked Jake this question, and this is my favorite question. At first, I was trying to think, what is Alexis talking about?
I'm a little nervous right now with the build-up.
I was yeah, that question. So what is your favorite thing to hear when you attend matches? So my favorite words, I want to hear sprawl, sprawl. Do you have any trademarks, catchphrases that you like to hear coaches scream out at the players when they're on the mats doing their thing?
So I'm sure Jake gave you a much more entertaining answer, and I'm going to have to disappoint you here. Because of the weird COVID season, Penn State's only had one home match. And unfortunately, because of all the credentialing issues, Jake is the only one who's gone to that match. So I can't offer you an answer there. Jake, I haven't gone to an in-person event yet for wrestling for the Collegian. I'm looking forward to doing that at the Big Ten tournament. That'll be my first one there, but I don't have any cool little sayings that are my favorites, unfortunately.
That's okay, but let me talk about that really quick. Give a little
Mhm.
side edge to it a little bit.
Absolutely, yes.
How has that affected you in your reporting? Not being able to go to the actual game, like having to watch it on the Big Ten Network, trying to source down information. Like, talk about your experience going through COVID and being a reporter.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. Obviously, you haven't really had to deal with this or had to do anything like this in the past. I know for Jake and I, we're listening to the radio broadcast. We're watching the TV broadcast as well when we can, when it's on the Big Ten Network or Big Ten Plus. So we're trying to get as much information as we possibly can. You got to take advantage of media availability during the week to talk to the wrestlers and ask them the questions you want to ask. It's not ideal, but you got to make the best of it.
Well, thank you, Ben. We appreciate you taking some time out of your day to talk with us here at Sports Speak, and we look forward to watching the wrestling championship.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Conference tournaments coming up are women's ice hockey, which starts on March 4th, and Penn State is the #1 seed. Also, as we just discussed with Ben, wrestling will have their tournament this weekend. So, Lex, we have some interesting things to look at for the Penn State world.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how, Penn State wrestling stacks up against the other teams in the Big Ten. They had an undefeated dual meet season, so let's see if that momentum can carry over into the Big Ten tournament and see how many individual champions we have, as well as if they bring home the team title. So I think it's going to be, I'm excited to talk about this come next week.
Well, I'm looking forward to women's hockey because they're on a roll. They've only lost one game this year, correct? And tied a bunch of games. But, I mean, hey, there's something to be excited about.
It is. So we're going to have a lot to talk about next week here on Sports Week. Make sure you tune in to watch us discuss wrestling results and women's ice hockey results and much more. Thanks for joining us on Sports Speak, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.